panelists, for sparing your valuable time joining this Sunday evening. I'm sure with such distinguished panels, all the attendees will be able to benefit a lot, gain some insightful points from all of you. Thank you so much. Over to you, Mr. Gulati.
Sure. Thank you so much, Vivek. And
Sir, just a small thing. Someone has locked the room. Can you just open the room in case if room is locked? I think one of you can just. Okay, I think this is fine. Room unlocked by moderator. Thank you very much. Okay. So attendees were unable to join. Okay, wonderful. Sir, please carry on.
yeah, thank you, Vivek. And congratulations for having successfully put together the virtual exhibition. I think you and your team have done a tremendous job of putting together things even during this pandemic, in the new normal. The adaptation has been very well taken care of. Can I request everybody to please mute themselves and unmute only when they speak, because there's a lot of echo that occurs. Thank you so much. I hope everybody is able to hear me. So let me begin by introducing our distinguished panelists today. We have with us Dr. Amrita Vora. She is the Director Education of GEMS Education India. Dr. Vora has been an eminent educationist for the last 23 years. Child and female psychology has been her calling since her days as a student, and thus her PhD thesis also deals with contradictions of the self. She's also written various articles on education and parenting. Of these, Education Revolution is one of the noteworthy series published in the Times of India. Dr. Vora now works in GEMS Education as the Director of Education for GEMS School. Welcome on board, Dr. Vora. Can I request everybody to please mute themselves? There's lots of background noise. Can everybody please mute themselves? Thank you so much. I'm sorry about this, but this is how the new normal works. Second on the list here is Ms. Archana Tandon. She's the principal of Kinder Care. Is she here? I think she's yet to join. So we'll wait for her to join in before I introduce her. Next, we have with us Poonam Singhal, and I guess she's here. Hello, ma'am. Good evening. Ms. Poonam Singhal has been an educator for the last 34 years. She has a varied experience of teaching in schools like APJ, DPS, Heritage, and the Millennium Schools. She has worked with international pedagogies in the Global Indian International School, Noida, and GEMS Modern Academy, Gurugram. She firmly believes that 21st century children need to have their skills with the primary focus on developing communications. This helps in building confidence and will go a long way in shaping their adult life. Indeed, well said, Ms. Poonam. And Ms. Singhal is presently the principal of the Paras World School. Next, we have here Ms. Alpana Baveja. Hello, ma'am. Ms. Baveja is the principal of Manav Rachna International School in Sector 51 in Gurugram. She is an experienced and passionate educator with almost 2 decades of experience in various schools across the country, which includes Army schools, Euro International schools, Gyananda, and GEMS International School. Her rich exposure to CBSE, Cambridge, as well as ICSE curricula has shaped her distinct and innovative approach as an academic leader. A recipient of the prestigious Time Achievers of Education Award, she has authored articles in various journals and newspapers. An excellent hands-on trainer, she extensively conducts a number of seminars, workshops, and teacher training capsules in India and abroad. A passionate mentor, she firmly believes that there is no greater responsibility and privilege than grooming the next generation. Absolutely agree. And on that note, I welcome you, Alpana. We have with us Chitra Srinivas. Chitra is the Director Operation of 𝐒𝐞𝐲, 𝐿𝐈𝐳 is a brand incorporated in India as an independent private sector initiative specialized in rating universities and colleges, and brings together the global expertise, experience, and reputation of QS along with local knowledge from partners. 𝐿𝐈𝐳 has also entered the school domain recently with a rating system for schools in India. Great job, Chitra. On that note, welcome on board. And if Archana Tandon, I believe, has not been able to join yet, so I guess we'll start with the discussion. And it is really interesting to see that parents have such a wide variety of choice of schools to make. Okay, welcome, Archana. We were waiting for you. Welcome on.
Thank you.
And um, I welcome on board Ms. Archana Tandon. She's the principal of Kindercare. Kindercare comes with over 25 years of experience in the education sector. After engaging with prestigious schools like DPS, and heading Air Force Vidya Bharati schools, she turned to the path of entrepreneurship and started Kindercare, one of the leading play schools and daycare centers in Gurugram. A seasoned educationist, she specializes in training teachers for holistic child development in addition to successfully nurturing young minds. Welcome on board, Archana.
Thank you.
Can I request you to please mute yourself because that causes a lot of background noise. Are you on mute, Archana? Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So as we were before you joined, we were discussing and we were just talking about the fact that we are living in very interesting times. There are lots of schools, lots of new schools, lots of schools with different offers, with different boards. And the landscape of school education has never been this interesting earlier, wherein, choice was not a word in the dictionary for a parent. It was much rather getting into a waiting list. That used to be the scenario. But the tide has turned. Lots of educators have come forward, and there are all kinds of schools, and every school is trying to carve out its own niche, provide the best that it can in the interest of the students. So while there are options to choose from, there is also the responsibility of choosing the right school for your child. Because the school that you choose today will go a long way in shaping up the personality and the future of your child. In fact, I often encourage parents to look deep into the schools just beyond the surface and make an informed decision in the best interest of their child, because every school is not right for every child. There are subtle differences. On the surface, it just might appear that, okay, all schools are more or less the same. But when we go deeper, we look at the kind of practices that schools follow. We look at the kind of culture that the school has. We look at the ethos of the school. We look at the kind of intent that the school carries. We find that there are subtle differences which make all the difference to a child's social climate, emotional climate, and of course, the climate for intellectual and skill development. The other aspect of school education is that it's a long contract. In fact, school education is is the only sector which has a 14 to 15-year contract with a child or with a parent. There's no other service sector, if I look around, there's no other service sector which has such a long contract. If you look at health sector, uh, while one may have a contract with a certain hospital or a doctor to repeatedly go there in case of health issues, but health issues are thankfully short-lived. So you go to a doctor, you get yourself treated, and you're fine and you move ahead. And even if there is an ailment which requires hospitalization, today hospitalizations are rather short. They're a week, 10 days. So it's a curative. It's a curative contract. It's not a developmental contract. Whereas here the contract is developmental and it's a 15-year contract. That's one. Secondly, the contract is not transactional. It's very emotional. So once a child is in the school, it's very difficult for the child to adapt to a new social climate unless there is a dire necessity where a parent has had to change the city of residence, or there are some other factors involving involved, because these 15 years are the most formative. These are the ones where your peer group is very important to you. You spend lots of time with your peer, and you are actually emotionally dependent on your peer group, because that's where you process yourself, that's where you process your emotions, and that's also where you find meaning in your life at that age. So 15-year contract is a rather long contract, because the world will not be the same place as it is today after 15 years. So choosing a school today with a foresight of 15 years is a challenging task. I think it's one of the most difficult tasks. Nevertheless, I would open the floor to our panelists to shed more light on this, and I would request Aleja to please start with the views on how a parent should be looking at a school, what should he be looking for, and how is it that he can make a right decision to select the right school for his child.
Good evening, Mr. Gulati, and good evening, my co panelists, and all the parents out there. I think you beautifully, elaborated how important it is for parents, to make the right decision. And very pertinent question indeed. And I feel that parents, as parents, all of us are looking to provide the best education to one's child. And with a plethora of choices available to the parents, with its own advantages and disadvantages and nuances, it makes this choice a very difficult one and confusing too. So, as you rightly said, that one needs to be very objective while making this choice. So, as a parent, one must list down their priorities because, as you rightly said, that for every parent, the priorities might be different. And in a comprehensive manner, if we see, the first factor which I feel as a parent, which one must look at, is a natural and child-friendly environment. So I have always believed that home is the first school and school is the second home to a child. So, when one is choosing the right school, the first and the important parameter should be identifying a school which would be akin to a natural home for a child. Where the child feels completely at home, the child can express, the child looks forward to go to school. I'm sure you all remember in our school days, a large number of students would keep looking for excuses to miss school. But today I can proudly say, and it is an overwhelming experience when parents tell us that, the children, they don't want to miss a school for a single day. So definitely a friendly environment conducive to learning, which will promote the love for learning. Because that is what we are looking in our children, to bring them as happy children. Another I feel should parents should look into is the curriculum and the pedagogy of a school. I also remember a beautiful quote here that, the two things we should provide our children, one is the roots and the other is the wings. Roots to have a strong foundation, as well as strong values. And wings, where we let our children, try out their aspirations and have the courage and skills to go out and realize their dreams. The curriculum of a school goes long way, beyond the books, beyond the syllabus, but refers to the holistic experience provided to a child. A right blend of scholastics and post-scholastics. And today, as it is very visible in NEP 2020 also, life skills plays a very important role. So I think for the younger ones, parents may look into a school which provides experiential learning, and for the senior ones, along with experiential learning, research-based curriculum. So catering to the different skills for children.
Thank
I
you.
also feel that quality of teachers is very, very important. We all have seen during this pandemic. I mean, I think most of the schools, in fact, every school came virtual. But if you see schools which were progressive in nature, which had a proper professional development set, I mean, those teachers, if you see, they're doing everything online. You name a thing and they're doing it. So I think teachers also play a very, very important role, and they're the catalyst. And I think schools, for choosing a school, one should be very pertinent to see if these aspects are there in a school.
Thank you so much, Alpana. That was really enriching. And with that, I would move on to Dr. Amrita Vora. Dr. Vora has perspectives on international education. GEMS is probably the largest education group in the world and has schools across the globe. And I think there wouldn't be any board that GEMS doesn't have a school affiliated to. So I guess we'll get another perspective from Dr. Vora. May I invite her to please share her views.
Thank you, Mr. Gulati, and a very warm welcome to all the parents here. It's a very bright set of people out here, and I'm sure this webinar will help you take away some genuine ideas which probably you can utilize to choose the right school. The choice is now available, as Mr. Gulati put it earlier, and the choice is a really tough one. One more dimension I think has been added with the pandemic. Do I really, which school to choose? Now, do I really need to send my child to school? Should my child be homeschooled? Should my child be in a hybrid model? What is it going to work like? What is it going to look like in the future? Is the school really required? Learning, what are the advantages of it or the disadvantages of it? And so on. So it's even more muddled. After all, we live in the world, right? So, 15-year contract, as Mr. Gulati likes to put it, yes, we don't know, none of us knows. We are preparing a generation which is smarter than us. Every generation is smarter than the previous one for a future that we know nothing about. And here we are trying to educate them. So we can't, whichever be the board, the content may vary a bit here and there. The style of teaching and learning may vary a bit here and there, but that's not really what the school is so much about. Most of the boards do give a lot of flexibility, and in India in particular, the Indian curricula like CBSE and ICSE give a lot of flexibility, at least till grade 8, and it's in the senior years that schools start worrying about the board and the marks, and thankfully so, because the more we worry about that, the less our child will be educated, the less they will be really prepared for life. And I think all the forward-looking curriculum or the boards in the world are really talking about this. And now our NEP 2020 is also talking very clearly about this. In a school, we are all passionate people. A school is a place for passionate engagement with learning. What you need to, I think, see is feel the vibe, get into the school. The culture of the school makes all the difference. It's the people in the school that design the culture of the school. How happy are people? we create the learning environment and children learn from that. They're not learning, they're learning how to learn. The content, there'll be a lot, it's available at the click of a button. They don't need that as much as they need to learn how to learn, as much as they need to develop a growth mindset, as much as they need to really understand what is it that I'm really good with, what is it that I need to improve on and how, and get on to it and be able to do it. Not see any limits, not try to compete with others, but actually compete with themselves at all times. I think that is what we really need to look at in a school. The other is the school really using opportunities? What kind of exposure, what kind of experiences is my child going to thrive on? What kind of inquiry-led approaches are there? Is there inquiry? Is there opportunity for experiment? Is there opportunity for exploration and freedom? And is the child feeling safe? Is the environment such that my child not just is safe, but feels safe? That's equally, and if not more important, feels safe in that environment to go out and explore and express and communicate and collaborate. And it's a utopia that we build around them. They are living at the same time in a world which is rapidly changing, much more rapidly than we've ever seen before. The future is literally, with this pandemic, rammed in on us. And we also need to ensure that they know how to tame technology rather than be tamed by it. Is the school able to ensure that hybrid space wherein they're able to do this, or are they getting sucked instead into a different zone which is not going to be as useful? That balance is necessary. Creativity is at the center of anything to do with learning. Tomorrow, all careers will demand that. We will need emotional literacy. Our children need to develop resilience and emotional literacy. So that balance, which may have been lost in a big way, we are all sitting far away. It's good to connect. It's amazing. And thankfully, at least we had technology during this pandemic to bring us together. But still, any teacher here would agree, any parent would agree, and any child would agree, we're all missing that space, the physical space of the school, like crazy, right? I know the children are missing, the teachers are missing, despite us being able to explore this opportunity beautifully. It's opened the globe to us. Children are engaging in virtual exchange programs and really interacting in classes wherein teachers exchanges are happening and children are being able to get the flavors and connecting with the whole world. It's a global perspective that genuinely they're getting. They are understanding sustainable development to the core. But beyond all of this, most important is that emotional connect and happiness that we need to bring into the system, and that needs to be there at the center, the value system, the grounding that needs to be there in the center. So when you walk into the school, when you talk to people in the school, you know who you are dealing with. I think Alpana also put it, quality of teachers is important. No school is better than its teachers. Do meet the teacher, do walk into the classroom, and thankfully now you can't just walk into the classroom, you're all experiencing real classrooms full time. So observe. When you seek out admission, go there, ask to be in some demo lessons in the class, observe, understand for yourself how it works. But do remember that that person sitting there, let's respect the teacher, let's respect the educator. The educator is also a professional. We don't tell the doctor what to prescribe as medicine and what to think and what not to say. We do tend to tell teachers a lot of all that. Let's really respect them as professionals and try to see what is working best for me, what is really connecting with me. That is how I think I would go ahead and choose a school. I'd be happy to answer that question on the board later if you're going to have the question answer round, Mr. Gulati. I think you're on mute, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Vora, for reminding me that I'm on mute, and also the fact that for such an insights on school education. And couldn't agree with you more that we are all so much missing school, being physically there. we as adults are also now itching, and I really, my heart really goes out for the students who are so much more active and need so much more social interaction than adults can, and adults really do. On that note, let me get another perspective from uh, Ms. Poonam Singhal, who's the principal of the Paras World School, about her thoughts on choosing the right school for children.
So, good evening, Mr. Gulati, and good evening to all my co-panelists here, and also to all the parents who are watching us live right now. As Amrita said, technology has enabled us to get onto a ground where we can be very, very interactive. Like everybody has been saying, there are a plethora of schools, and choosing the right school for your child is the most difficult task that any parent undergoes. I've been into education for 35 years, as you just mentioned a little while ago. And in this 35 years, a lot of my own friends, my own colleagues, my own relatives have often asked me that what should be the criteria when we are choosing a school? Didi kaun se school mein dale ya kahan dale? That's a question that invariably comes up. So for me, I think the most important aspect of choosing a school is the vision and mission of the school. It is the vision of the school which is extremely important, and it should resonate in every sphere of the school campus, right from, when one of my friends said that this is why I chose a particular school, and I said, why have you chosen that school? It's because she said, right from the security guard to the nannies, to the front office, to the counselor, to the parent, to the principal, everybody spoke the same language, which means that the vision of the school along with the management is very, very clear. So if the vision of the school is clear, automatically the trickle-down effect that it would have on the child, on your own child, would be amazing. So for choosing a school, I personally feel that the vision and mission of the school is extremely important. The next factor is that what is it that your child wants? It is not what you want as a parent. Please think about it. What is it that your child wants out of a school? Is your child looking at a school which is very structured? Because there are some children who do extremely well in a structured school, whereas there are others who do very well in an unstructured. When I mean an unstructured, I don't mean that the child can just go haywire, but a school that gives the child a platform to explore, to be able to do what he or she wants to do in the manner that he or she is okay to do, and the school supports that kind of learning. So it is not only this, there are 101 ways of learning, and getting the best fit for your child, the teachers are equipped to handle that kind of a fit. So very, very important. The next important thing which I feel when a parent is choosing a school is how much emphasis is being laid on the SEL, on the social emotional development of the child. Because if the child is socially and emotionally led to be strong individuals in the school, where they are supportive in that manner, I'm sure as adults, when they grow up, they can manage to do their life much better. They will be able to take up any challenges that are there before them. Like Amrita mentioned a little while earlier, that resilience is a very important aspect of a child's growth. And resilience will only come if the child learns to be socially and emotionally a responsible member of the society. Then, does the school have supportive teachers and administrators? Are they available to the parents whenever they are required? Is the school at a safe distance, the safety and security of the school? Is the school, like Amrita just mentioned, is it safe? Does it feel safe, or is it just announcing that it's safe? Does the infrastructure support the learning, or is the infrastructure just as a showpiece? All these factors are very, very important for all these years that I have been working with various schools and making sure. But I think the most important the last bit that I would say is that believe in the gut of yourself. What does your gut say when you enter the school? What is the ambience? What is the kind of feel that you get? That will give you a clear indicator whether this is the right school for your child or it's not the right school for your child. Because school may tom-tom about a lot of things, but the minute you enter the school, the minute you meet the teachers, the minute you meet the principal, you will be able to know exactly whether this is a school where I want my child to be or not be. So having said that, I think these are some of the things. I mean, the cliche terms, hygiene, discipline, curricula, all these are terms that every school would want to, but finally, it's about what you want for your child and what is it that your child wants for himself or herself. I also believe that having an inclusive school is very important, because an inclusive school helps the child to understand that you are blessed and living in harmony with children who are differently able also teaches you certain life skills, which goes a long way in shaping you as an adult. That's my take about choosing a school. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. That was very well expressed. I think you've touched upon some of the very relevant points. The first, which is also very close to my own heart, is the adult centricity of decision making. The one of the issues in making a decision for any child. I mean, there's no value judgment about it, but but that is how the fact of the day is that one of the decisions. Can I request everybody to be on mute, because there's a lot of background noise that comes in. Thank you so much. As adults, we have to make decisions for our children. There is no other way. When we make decisions for adults, we could fall into the trap of making a decision of what we want, as opposed to what the child wants. That holds good for parents. That holds good for us as educators also. Because lots of times I've come across parents who say, I always wanted to go to this school, but I could not get admission. So I want my child to go there. I wondered how appropriate it is for that kind of a decision making to happen. The other aspect is that we as educators also have to make decisions in the interest of children. Now, there are some decisions which are given, like the kind of syllabus that we follow as CBSE schools, the kind of timings that we follow, the kind of infrastructure that most schools have is the same. But when it comes to other differentiators or doing something more than what is merely there as a given, we have discretion as adults. And willy-nilly we end up saying, oh, well, I think I went to USA last year and I visited my nephew's school there, and they do this, so I have the mandate to influence the school system, so let's do this. Again, I often wonder how appropriate it is to do things, because as an adult I want to do it in my school, as opposed to what would be beneficial for the students. And so goes for the admission of when it comes to a parent's decision for a child. Of course, we know that parents want to make the best decision for a child, and I'm sure most of us also do make best decisions for our children. But just as a word of caution, I also wanted to emphasize upon the adult centricity of decision making. The other point which ma'am, you've touched upon is much more relevant today, is about the socio-emotional climate. because we are seeing with technology that knowledge can be imparted without physically going to school. And today, technology has given us the tools to impart knowledge over platforms available, which were not available 10 years back. If 10 years back, the correspondence courses were still in practice at that time, today those correspondence courses have changed to online pro courses. So yes, technology has taken us one step closer by physically not going there. But what happens to the social climate? What happens to the socialization? If a child doesn't go to school, he attends only online classes, sitting home, and if a school functions for 6 to 7 hours, then where is the socialization happening? Where is the emotional development happening? Because we know that emotional development and social development are very closely linked. So the kind of role that the school plays in the social and emotional development of a child has become much more relevant, and it is time for schools to see themselves not only as perpetrators of knowledge and skills, but also as key perpetrators of providing the right social and emotional development. So that's a very relevant point, and I appreciate you having brought it up. On that note, let's get a perspective from the early years, the preschool segment, which is so very relevant because as educators, we know that the early years of a child are very, very important because as literature and research tells us that by 5 or 6 years, the brain is fully developed. Some of the skills are developed. The linguistic skills start developing. So the early years, one of the favorite things that resonates very well with me is that that while we call them play schools, but actually they are no child's play. Early years education can very well be imparted in a playway method to engage the students, but it is actually no play. When I say no play, I mean it is not like a group of children who are playing in the compound of a certain condominium or a society where they come together and decide to play hide and seek or hopscotch or whatever games they might find engaging with. On the surface, it appears that preschools are only children go and play there, but though that play is a lot of thought goes into that play, and educators like Archana have put in years of their experience to develop that kind of system. So let's hear from Archana about what the parents can look for while choosing the right school for their children.
Thank you, Ashish. A very good evening to everyone. When a parent wants to choose a play school for the child, the parent should look for what is the foundation of the play school. The foundation of the play school is contact and connect. The parents should see what connect the teachers are having with the kids. And it's not that the parents should just walk into the school, meet the principal, and decide what the school is doing and whether the school is right for the child or not. Just seeing the infrastructure and talking to the principal. Infrastructure, of course, is very, very important. The right infrastructure builds the right personality of the child, the right kind of equipment, the right kind of building, the safety of the building, everything is very important. But at the same time, in a play school or a preschool, the affection with which the teachers deal with the child, the connect which they make, the initial hug which the child gets every day in the morning, which right now the kids are missing and we also are missing. We are taking online classes, but We are taking live classes, we are taking online classes, we are chit chatting with the kids. But that hug which we used to give them every day, holding them tight, making them feel that everything is right. Even if you have left mama, you have another mama here. That all is now gone in online classes. But still, play schools are trying their level best to do the best in these online classes and keep the kids and the parents connected. Now, coming back to what to look for in a play school,
I think there is a bandwidth issue because Archana's video has
Fro-
frozen
yeah,
my, on my screen at least. Is it frozen on
it's
other?
frozen. It's frozen. It's
Yeah,
frozen.
yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
so can you,
Must have
Thank
got
you.
disconnected. Yeah.
we request once she has a better connectivity, we'll request her to repeat her point of view. And now I see that the screen has blanked out. So let me move on to the to Chitra Srinivas, and I have been deliberately reserving this Chitra's insights to come in uh, to as a summary because Chitra is a person who looks at educational institutions objectively. Okay, Archana is back. Sorry, will Archana, your video had frozen. So, uh,
yeah, there was some problem, I think.
so
So
can I
I was
request
just
you to please complete your inputs on?
Yeah, so I was just talking about that our school building, the infrastructure is very important. The classrooms might not be very elaborate and very fancy, but safety is very important. The doors, the tables, the furniture, the washrooms, the play area all need to be very safe. That's one very important point which the parents should see while selecting a play school. Second is the curriculum which the play school is following. Another very important factor is the proximity. Play schools where very young children come are good if they are close by. So people also prefer closer to home play schools. And last but not the least, the vibes which the parents get on entering a play school, on talking to the head of the school, on meeting the teachers. If you get positive vibes, good vibes, you know that your child is safe and you can make the child join that play school.
Thank you so much. I think God has gifted us with a sixth sense of making sense of the vibes that we get, and that we should learn to trust our own gut feel. I couldn't agree with you more on this. As I was saying, I deliberately reserved the last slot for Chitra to come in because Chitra's organization and as a professional, she looks at uh, things in a comprehensive manner, at a objectively as a body that's appraising them and maybe advising them on what they could do to better themselves off. So over to you, Chitra, if you.
Thank you, Mr. Gulati. Good evening, everyone, and thanks to Affairs for inviting me to be part of this panel. This is the first time I'm sharing a platform with all the educators here. I'm not an educator, so in my individual capacity, I'm a parent here. So it's nice to share my views and experience as a parent. Um, so I was just following all the conversation and all the key inputs that all of you shared, and some of the important aspects of choosing the right school for a child have been covered, like the teachers' quality and the curriculum structure. So when I will share my experiences as a parent, and I will also touch upon a little bit about what we QSIGH have introduced in this space. So when I started when I had to look out for a school for my child. I prepared myself, with a list of things that are good to have and that are must have. So I focus because what happens is when you visit a school and when you go enter a campus, you see a lot of things and it's sometimes, very overwhelming to know where to focus. So unless I had that clarity in my mind in terms of, these are the these are the must aspects that I need to have for my child, and the rest of them are good to have. In that, if a couple of them are not there, it is still okay for me because my focus was on the must have list. So in that, the top two that I had in my list have already been touched upon, which is the quality of teachers and their interaction. So what I did was I just booked my appointment on a weekday. This was few years ago, but now there are trial and demo sessions also that schools have enabled. But I'm talking about my experience few years ago. So I made a visit on a weekday and I just went around the school campus and without disturbing the class. As a parent, that's something that I need to do because I know the strengths of my child. And like Mr. Gulati said, it's a relationship over many years that needs to form with the school. It's a trust that we build when we send the child. And the whole objective is to send the child so the child is more happier when he or she comes back home, and you see the child growing from what it was. I as a parent, I know there are some strengths that the child has, but when he or she goes to a school, the teacher is able to identify some other potential which I as a parent was not able to uncover. That's the whole purpose of that entire journey, besides all the curriculum and the common teaching and other things that go as together. So this is possible only if the curriculum is integrated with life skills, which has already been touched upon. So with respect to life skills, it could be emotional, it could be even if you take the current example, going through this stage of the pandemic, which no one ever expected. Even organizations had a lot of issue in terms of taking all the employees to through this work from home culture. So I can imagine how it would have been in schools when children have never experienced anything like that before. And when social contact is so important, and schools play a very crucial role in terms of making sure the child still feels connected to the teachers, to the class, and to the entire system, that has been a huge challenge. And unless the school's vision, which I think Poonam ma'am already touched upon, is strong enough to stay focused despite any pandemic or any other situation that may disturb the entire the education delivery, those things are not possible. And I think I must thank all the schools that have put in a great effort in this direction, because my child is in grade 10, and as I speak today, his education is going online without any issues. And the school system has taken considerable steps to make sure the students' journey is undisturbed. So apart from this, I also had two other important factors as a parent in my mind. One is the holistic approach. This borrows from the curriculum structure, which we already talked about. So I know whether my child is interested in arts or is interested in sports, because beyond studies, I also want them to develop some kind of a hobby. So if he or she is very good at it, that can probably be taken up as a profession later. But even otherwise, developing a hobby along with education is always good, because, it helps them unwind sometimes. So I was looking at that balance, and also a holistic approach. What I mean by that is a child spends considerable amount of time in school, say about 6 hours, travel included. And after he or she gets back home, I really don't want to send them anywhere, because everything is provided in the school. They've had their playtime, they've had their co-curricular activity, and they've had their curriculum. Because when I get back home from my office, I want some time for myself to do my own activity. And I think that is something that we should give our children also. And I, as a parent, I believe in that. So if there is no requirement for a child to go to tuitions, as soon as they come back from school, they drop their bags, and within half an hour they need to get ready, attend various classes, weekend sports, and all of that makes it very overwhelming. So if everything is provided in a school to some extent, if not all, and if they need a professional coaching, that's a separate thing altogether, which need to be given. And schools play a very important role. So this was also on top of my must-have list. And one more point that I considered was stakeholder participation. So I, as a parent, I cannot just send my child to the school and say, okay, teachers have to do everything. So you need to make my son or daughter the best in everything. It doesn't work that way, because I have equal participation or contribution towards the journey. That is very important for me. So I always looked up to a system which is more open to hearing feedback, or that open conversation where the teacher is not able to get something done from a child, so they discuss with the parent and see whether there is a workable solution, or they can help the child, or the parent is not able to understand why a child is not interested in a certain activity which teacher has access to it, because they also spend 6 to 7 hours, and probably with the teacher the child is more open, because parent by nature sometimes we get into that we want to groom them in a certain way, so we put some restrictions which is not there with the teacher. So those aspects play a very crucial role in terms of giving that overall development to a child, and also a student counselor, full-time counselor, because if there is an issue, and this I experienced in my case, because in one incident, a girl child in the class misunderstood some comment that was made by two other students. So there, even the teacher could not convince or explain the situation to the girl's parents, but the student counselor played a very crucial role, because she was non-judgmental in the entire process, because she heard what exactly happened from both sides, and she was able to give a different perspective, and that actually solved the problem. So for me, these were all high priority when I made the visit, and I was only making a mental picture about, as I started visiting, my focus remained on these must have. There were many other good to have, like, I had already done my homework on, transportation facilities in terms of distance, in terms of timings, because I think those are the, the minimum or the basic checks which the parent need to do for shortlisting a school. And I do agree with the panelists' experience that I did not go by, the brand name or a certain school is so good because of, somebody had a very good experience. Because I'm not sure, every child is different. Every child has the unique ability which a school plays a key role in terms of tapping it. So I was always looking for that particular school which is able to give that attention to the student, allow him or her to be more confident, besides, focusing on the on their main curriculum. So this is what I did as a parent. And as an organization, as Mr. Gulati mentioned in his introduction, we are a rating, higher education rating company. Our parent company is called 𝐒𝐞𝐲𝐭. If you have heard about them, they do rankings and ratings for higher education institutions in India. Recently, we have introduced a rating system for schools in India. It's a very new product, and the methodology of the holistic assessment, or quality assessment as it is called, is structured on some of these indicators which we are discussing about. So I'm very glad to share my perspective as a parent here, because I heard my co-panelists have met many parents like me, and it's good to share my experience with you all. Thank you.
Thank you. That was very well thought of and very helpful. I hope it will be helpful. I'm sure it will be. So that's been a very insightful and enriching inputs that have come in from all the panelists. And for the sake of actionability, let me try and put some of the points, some of the threads that are very common and that are very prominent in this entire discussion. You see, the first thing first we see is that if we sit down to list and populate the factors that should be considered, then it can be overwhelming. So, so no one school will have all of them. That's that I'm sure most of us as adults understand. That it's pretty much like no one person will have all the qualities. Each person will have some strengths and some weaknesses, or some strengths and some areas of work to be done. Nevertheless, we do want to make a best decision in the interest of our child. And one of the threads that I see running common across the panel is happiness. The children, the comfort level of the children, their happiness, the flexibility and tolerance uh, of the teaching fraternity, coupled with their skills to handle the children, is definitely one of the common threads that I see running across the panel, and I am much in agreement with this, as much as I'm sure the parents would be in agreement that we do, at the end of the day, we want our child to be happy. Uh, you know, uh, Even if we have high aspirations for the child to do well academically, to do well competitively in sports or in other areas, I think that can happen only in a good emotional climate. If the child is in a good emotional space. So, so a school that makes efforts and practices for its children to be in a good emotional climate, I think, is something that's very, very important today, because the kind of times we live in, there are so many. The world is becoming much more complex by the day, by the use of technology, by the options available, by the kind of exposure the students have today. So the inputs which a child gets today need much more mental processing than the input that a child who went to school 20 years back got. uh, you know, the mental processing is required is probably much higher today, and the complexity of the connections in terms of forming a worldview are very, very high today. Then they are getting much more complex by the day. So that's important. Now, coupled with this, another thread that I see running common across is the value system and the grounding of the school. And I think that becomes very, very relevant today because there is so much happening in terms of exposure and opportunity that it's easy for a child to get swayed away by the tide of inputs and information overload and opportunities that a child will get, that the value system is the one which will keep him grounded and also guide him on where to focus, where to put the priorities, where not to put priorities. In earlier times, one could get away with lots of things because the world was much less complex. Today, things are otherwise, and the complexity is likely to grow as much as the competitiveness of this world. However, the optimism that I have is that while the complexity is growing, so are the opportunities, and the world is opening up. Uh, but how it will shape up is something that everybody is guess. The other very, very strong, uh, you know, uh, um, thread that is running across in this discussion is the kind of practices that a school has in terms of the curriculum and the pedagogy. And like I heard one of the panelists say that a school is as good as its teachers. So the kind of significance that a school lays on its teachers, the kind of regard and respect that teachers enjoy in a school are the first measure of how much emphasis is being laid on teachers as people, as professionals, and not as resources. Coupled with that is the kind of uh, the kind of investment that is made on training, on the emotional well-being, on the um, well-being of teachers, which is which also speaks volumes about how much the school walks the talk that that it is that it is communicating. because uh, you know things can be practiced only by the day to day activity that teachers practice in the school, and everything else can just remain as good words written on boards, written across the school as quotable quotes, but whatever is in practice is the one that translates into an experience for a child. So the teachers, the kind of curriculum and pedagogy, and how well they are able to translate it. Because there is really no dearth of knowledge and skills available today. Depending on the priorities that one has in life, one can choose to admit the child to international boards, to CBSE, and today all boards have been through an iteration where the syllabi and the system of assessments has reached a level of refinement, and but the million dollar question is, how well is it practiced in the school uh, that delivers whatever the board or whatever the national education policy. The national education policy is another thing we should look forward to, because it's a very forward-looking policy. It fi- uh, it uh, it aspires to fill up lots of gaps, and of course, the test of it will be in translation to practice. But when it comes to school, the test will be in how it translates as practices which are demonstrated by teachers and experienced by students, because students are very sensitive. They are able to gauge from they are able to look at the teacher's face and say that the teacher is having a bad day today. She's not she's not looking happy. She's not looking her normal self, and that can at that impressionable age, it can have an influence on the students. Of course, the other things are hygiene, which are the infrastructure. Today, the kind of infrastructure that the schools are offering are truly comparable to luxury. Can would be termed as luxury 10 years back. So the infrastructure is important, but I think more important is what is being done with that infrastructure. And infrastructure in itself is only the body. The culture is the soul of the school. So without the soul, the body is dead. The body cannot do anything on its own. So we can have a school with a beautiful infrastructure, with uh, very well planned out, very well thought of infrastructure, but it is the practice. Because let's not forget that some of the best practices came in from the places like Shantiniketan and Gurukuls. Today we are talking of experiential learning, and what was happening in the Gurukuls was experiential learning only. It was all being taught by practice. Likewise, today we are talking of teacher-taught ratio, whereas in that times, when there was the traditional Indian education of the Gurukul system, the teacher-taught ratio was obviously very low. It was a very close connect with the Guru. Of course, we can argue that the world was very simple in those times. The kind of skills required were rather more basic, which is all true, and we have all the respect. There's no, it doesn't go out to discount the schools that we have today. So I hope. So when as a parent you go out, I would, having listened to the panelists, I would suggest to trust your gut feel and see if the school is willing to share itself with you and help you make an informed decision, or is the school uh, not so forthcoming, or is the school forthcoming only in presenting its good side and attracting you, uh, since it needs admissions. And I'm sure as informed and intelligent adults, you'll be able to figure that out very well. And on that note, thank you very much, all the panelists here, for your valuable time, for the valuable insights, and for sharing your what you may have learned through years of experience. And I'm hopeful that parents will be able to make a informed decision after hearing to this discussion. Unfortunately, Vivek, I'm not able to see the chat
Yes.
on uh,
Okay,
my
so that's
screen.
the reason I requested Dr. Amrita. So with your permission, Mr. Gulati, I'll
Yes.
request if some questions can be taken of the panelists. I think from the participants. I think Dr. Amrita, you are noticing some questions. So I'll request all of you to take one question in, and let's be very very precise within 2 minutes, 1.5 2 minutes. If we can answer those questions, we'll be able to take it. We can start one after another. So.
Yeah.
Poonam ma'am, you want to start first?
Yeah, so there is a question related to how do you get the aura and how do you manage the social emotional learning? There was one question related to that. And times like this, it's very very important that the social connect can be made. Of course, it's not like in physical, how it can be physically, but we allow our children to actually have a social connect where they can chit chat. So we have a chatting session where it's free. The children are just allowed to chat amongst themselves and just let the emotions just run free. This has helped considerably, and also when teachers are making care calls to the children, this is done on rotational basis. Every teacher is connecting with their students on care calls, and with those care calls one is able to understand whether the children are feeling emotionally okay or do they need any extra guidance or help. I think with this kind of connect, we have seen a lot of stability. Children are feeling more at ease. Uh, we call it the water cooler concept also in our own parlance, where when you connect at the water cooler and you chit chat amongst yourselves. So we allow things like that to happen. So it's a curriculum, and learning is an ongoing process that will happen. But to make sure that our children are actually emotionally safe, strong, and are able to deal with this pandemic, there is so much of negativity around. All you hear is negative. So we can only create an atmosphere by making sure that they feel happy even in these times. So I think one of the questions that was asked was related to the social emotional learning and how do we do that in these times. Yeah.
Thank you, Poonam ma'am. I think so nice of you. And I'll request Dr. Amrita to take one questions. And please, Archana ma'am as well as Chitra, please select one of your questions by the time Dr. Amrita is finishing her answer. Please
So
go ahead.
I think Poonam and I were struggling to answer that question because we were both looking at these questions and feeling what the
Yes.
parents must be. And it's something I think very close to our heart as educators. That's why a lot is being done on that front. So as she mentioned, we tried to have something we called coffee sessions, a coffee chat meeting for teachers, because even for teachers, it became very tough to really deal with this environment. They also miss being with each other, and I think all said and done, this pandemic also created an opportunity for parents, teachers, and students, everybody to really bond in a very different manner. For the first time, everybody was watching things live. A lot of understanding and empathy was born through it for each other and each other's situation. Uh, Teachers even ensured, given the scenario, we knew children couldn't move out. This summer break wouldn't be like a summer break, for instance, this year. So teachers through the summer also kept managing care calls and connect meetings and so on with children, which were about just ensuring social emotional well-being. We did theater productions. I mean, I come from a theater background, so that is something that has to be there. So we did theater productions online with different children collaborating and actually managing to put up productions online. for parents. So lots and lots of all that. Another question was to do with how do you really understand whether all of this in this pandemic as a parent, every website will be glossy and nice, every website, everything else. I mean, how the school is not really working. So what? So I think social media really comes in handy. If you scroll through the social media pages of any school, what you see there, that really reveals a lot to a perceptive mind. What is it? Is it really showing learning? Are the children learning? Are the children the focus, or is marketing the focus, or is all sorts of other paraphernalia and minutia the focus? What really is going on? Are they just trying to gain more and more TRP to it kind of stuff, or is it really about learning and connecting with the entire stakeholder community? I think Chitra said a very wonderful thing in the way she mentioned that the stakeholder matters, the parent matters, and the parent is an equal partner in the process. So that engagement between the parent and the teacher, if you're not together in it, it won't work. We all know it. We'll probably do one thing and the other one will pull it back. It won't work. We have to work together. That has to be the way. So the way student-led conferences and things like these, where even now portfolios instead of physical became e-portfolios, but everything happened. Even stream lessons have happened and children have done amazing projects. So lots and lots opened up, the world opened up literally on this technical platform. Children did virtual exchange programs. Children had MUNs. There are many children I know, because it was so expensive to participate, were not able to participate. Parents had their apprehensions. Now I saw, with the price coming down phenomenally, given the online platform, endless number of children started participating, and we saw them performing amazingly well. So that is something, it's an opportunity to explore. The whole world actually opened up. We could get specialists from different fields. We could connect them to different countries, and they've built relationships. I think they will last. That's something very special. Somebody else can tackle the question on the boards. If not, I'll be happy.
Okay, so with the permission of the moderator, I think, ma'am, Dr. Amrita, you mentioned so many important aspects, but always, as a parent, even when I look at the way, Chitra mentioned her experience, because I and Chitra are not educationists, but we work closely in the education sector. So in so many factors, we, I think, miss out on something which is very, very simplistic, very easy to understand. Suppose if I have shortlisted 4 or 5 schools, if you stand there at the pickup point first thing in the morning, and you see how happy is child going to a school, or while returning time, and having a small chit chat with those parents, little ones, standing there just to helping the child to get in the school bus, I think this can give great feedbacks. So we always look at, as a parent, our assessment, that we want something to on the website. We make things very, very critical, and we always miss out in the very simple aspects which are very, very easily available just outside our society gate, or outside or within our society. So I think these small things are also very important, which needs to be considered. So I have taken the important 1 minute time maybe from the panelists, but I thought of putting my point forward as well. I think with the permission of Mr. Gulati, Archana ma'am, please take one quick questions, as well as ma'am Seema, and then Chitra can also take one questions.
Okay, there was one question in which a parent asked that how can we know that the preschoolers are learning from virtual classes? It's very simple. Preschoolers are actually learning a lot from virtual classes. Initially, there were a lot of hiccups. We were also not very sure whether we would be able to impart anything of value to the kids through virtual classes. But as time went on, we have realized that kids are really learning. The only thing is that we as educationists have to be a little particular as to how we take up these classes. We have to manage short classes. If the classes are too long, children get bored, they get up and go away without listening to you. So the classes have to be short, and instead of just showing a presentation or a video to the kids, it has to be a live class where the teacher talks encourage the kids to talk among themselves and evolve some activities through which learning is imparted. And kids, believe me, are doing very well and they are really enjoying the classes, and parents are very happy with.
Okay, Chitra, you can take one question, then Mr. Gulati will take this forward, right?
Yes, Vivek. So there was one question about NEP 2020. And as a parent, I just wanted to touch upon that. So NEP 2020 implementation is not just for schools. Parents play a very key role in terms of understanding how this would be implemented and how this is going to impact the entire curriculum, which is going to transform. So there are so many aspects of NEP in terms of innovative pedagogy, which is going to focus on experiential learning, more focus on computational thinking, and building scientific temper through tinkering labs, or equally giving focus to humanities, and not just science research, but it also focuses on humanities, social studies, those kind of labs and thinking. And the culture of assessment itself is going to change. And most importantly, the classification of 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. I think all the schools are probably running orientation sessions with parents, and they're also giving handouts in terms of how this is going to transform the entire pedagogy in the coming years. And there is a lot more focus on mental health apart from physical health, which was there earlier. A lot of schools have already touched upon many of the NEP aspects, and they are part of the curriculum. But now, with a policy in place, this is going to come into mainstream. And I recommend that all parents to go through the NEP 2020. I think this document is available for download in Google. And if you request a copy from the schools, schools will also be able to provide. Because NEP also talks about technology transformation, because there is a lot of likes and dislikes about education being online, right? So from 𝐿𝐸 also, we have run several webinars, and we have also partnered with Affairs in the previous webinar virtual event. From colleges and universities, the feedback that we heard is it is going to be a blended model going forward, because blended model offers that kind of flexibility, and it also provides options for more learning opportunities, at their own time and pace. So technology transformation also plays a key role, and parents' participation is equally important. So as a parent, I would recommend, my suggestion is to understand the aspects of NEP with respect to the class that your child is in, because that is going to make a lot of difference in the coming year.
Thank you so much. I'm very aware of the time, and I see that we've gone past time. Although there are many more questions that can be uh, helpful for the parents to make up their mind. But I also understand that we have other engagements and are running into the evening. So on that note, there's just one point that I would like to touch upon, which I saw somewhere in the chat as a question, is that since the schools are not physically open, how do we look into the schools? So, well, yes, you're right. The schools are not physically open. So the first thing first is, I'm assuming that you're looking for admission for the next session. So at least as educators, we are optimistic that the next session will be running not not in the new normal mode, but in the normal mode. And so
On a lighter note, I think I read somewhere that because education is online, all teachers need to face all parents, and they're doing education delivery. So it's a lot more easier to know how the curriculum is handled, or, not that we need to sit through all the classes, but access to information is even more easier now.
So, as far as the quality of online classes is concerned, that's one clue that you can take. You can possibly request an existing parent to allow you to sit with the child for a while, and look at the class and observe the class. But I understand that, and we are also hearing of this in our own schools, that parents are not satisfied with only looking at the online interactions and they do want to visit the schools. So the schools, most of the schools are sparingly functioning. The offices are, and the government has allowed for some degree of flexibility. So while it is possible for you to go to the school, you will definitely not find the student. So again, that becomes a bottleneck. Now the other aspect is other suggestion I can make is that, well, if you are not satisfied, then hold your decision, because if you are facing this, then a lot of other parents are also facing this. And normally the admissions which fill up by which schools which get oversubscribed by September or October end, there is all likelihood that they may not get oversubscribed because of this. So there is less, relatively lesser risk in maybe putting your decision to select the school. But what I do suggest is that you should shortlist the schools that you want to see and visit, and the moment you're physically comfortable, you should go and visit the schools. And yes, all of us are hoping that normalcy will restore soon. On that note, thank you so much, all the panelists, the audience. Unfortunately, I can't see the audience. Usually, I've been moderating the discussion for the last many years, and I all of us as panelists, as moderator, get get our get our uh, get our energy from the supportive audience.
True.
But I'm sure we've had a very supportive audience here. Thank you very much, and choose wisely. And like they say, stay healthy, stay safe, stay home.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr.
Thank
Gulati.
you. Thank you.
One small point to all the attendees here. In case if you some questions have remained, I think we panelists could not take up all the questions in our Facebook page. It's already live. Just put all your questions there. I have already shared the link of the Facebook page with the panelists. So please, I'll request all the panelists to answer the questions whenever you have little time, so that at least our objective is to serve the attendees here, the parents. So if those questions which are unanswered can be answered, I think that should be very good. My special thanks to all the eminent panelists here and distinguished guest. My special thanks to Mr. Gulati for taking this session forward and moderating it. I think we have contributed by putting this session from affairs point of view, connecting the panelists with the attendees. And I'm sure we have got many appreciation on the chat boxes. I think people have really enjoyed the sessions. Most of the questions was almost answered. So thank you so much for making this session a wonderful one. And certainly it has enlightened most of the parents who have attended. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Gulati and Dr. Amrita, Chitra, Poonam ma'am, as well as Archana ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vivek. Thanks, everyone. Nice meeting. Bye.
Bye-bye. So I think all of you can sign out one after another. So that's fine. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.